A long time ago, I did a versus, and this versus got a lot of flack. Now, it didn't get its flack because of the decision that I made, or because I said anything super controversial, but rather because of the games that I compared. I compared Conker's Bad Fur Day to Donkey Kong 64. I know. While I do believe that any good reviewer can compare any game to, well, any other game, I do want to be smarter with my comparisons moving forward, and in reality, I think that a game like Conker's is best served with a singular review. So, here we are today. Let's talk about Conker's Bad Fur Day. Conker's Bad Fur Day. What a legacy this game has. One of the few rated M N64 games, and now one of the more expensive N64 games to collect. It's the cult favorite from the Rareware games, and many people claim that it's the best game on the N64. Those people clearly haven't played Buck Bumble. But anyways, released on March 5th, 2001 in North America and on April 6th of the same year in Europe, Conker's is one of the most remembered N64 games ever. My memories of Conker's Bad Fur Day aren't the best though. The first time that I played it was with a friend, and I ended up making him so angry he kicked me in the face and destroyed my upper lip. True story. So I stayed away from the game for a while, but when I started college, I thought it was time to pick it up again, and now that I'm going through FreeXax 3.5, it's probably a good idea to check it out one more time. I can't wait to get to the part with the lasers. Like usual with my reviews, I'm going to start off with the story. I'm going to be upfront with you, I'm planning on spoiling this game, so if you care about spoilers, leave. I would say skip to after I'm done talking about story, but Conker's is almost impossible to review without having that context, so yeah. Go watch Banjo-Kazooie vs. Super Mario 64 or something. The story goes like this. Conker, who just turned 21, goes out and gets absolutely smashed. The next morning, he wakes up hungover, and he makes it his goal to get back home to his girlfriend, Barry, which is a lot more difficult and time-consuming than it sounds because he takes a wrong turn at the very beginning. On this journey, he does a lot, like get a queen bee her hive back, befriend a pitchfork, helps a group of catfish get their treasure, then lets them get devoured, fights a giant singing piece of poo, becomes the leader of a tribe of cavemen, then kills them, meets his very great-grandfather, then kills him, goes to war, has a shootout, and even fights an alien. While all of this is going down, the Panther King just wants to enjoy a glass of milk, but when he puts it on the table, it collapses, and he doesn't know why, so he seeks out the help from the mad scientist, Professor Von Kripplisback. The professor determines that, hey, there's a leg on this table that's missing, and it's a bit necessary if we want the table to function as God intended. So they need a fourth leg, and the only thing that'll do is a red squirrel. Conker is a red squirrel. So the hunt is on. At the end of the game, once Conker has gone through his adventure, this is your last chance to get away before I spoil this ending. Alright. Here I go. He and Barry reunite for a while, and he comes face to face with the Panther King, who orders for Barry to be killed, and then she's killed until she is dead. She is 100% dead. No more. No less. Before Conker can fight the Panther King though, it is revealed that the king has been infected with an alien and dies. He is 90% dead. That's not a real thing. Conker fights the alien, but when he thinks that he has it beat, it leaps at him, but the game freezes. Conker figures that this is a game error and convinces the developers to help him with the alien. After the alien is defeated, Conker is made king of the land, but he realizes that Barry is gone. So he's stuck being king with all the different characters met throughout the land, but he truly doesn't like any of them. He just wants to go home and be with Barry. So Conker's ends up ending with our main character winning, but unhappy. It's actually very interesting. After the credits, the game really ends with Conker at the bar at the beginning. He drinks a bit and then goes home. The end. Or is it? It is. As far as N64 games go, the storytelling in Conker's is second to none. It gets quite a lengthy cutscene at the beginning, which establishes the characters, and slowly while Conker's progresses throughout the day, there are more cutscenes that we'll get to see. One thing that I find especially cool is that we get to experience Conker's story through gameplay and quick scenes, and we experience the Panther King's story through extensive cutscenes. Two different ways of storytelling all wrapped up into one game. Conker's is especially good once you have a second chance to play. You get to see the intricacies of the story, and the foreshadowing is done really well. For example, at the beginning, Conker's is holding a glass of milk, which is easily missed the first time around. And then he mentions in his message to Barry that the guys are going to go off to war. And guess what he does? He goes to war. Just wanted to point that out for the Earthworm Jim 3D fans out there. It's small details, but still nice details. There's nothing else like this on the N64. Like I said, second to none. I genuinely think that the best part about Conker's is its story and how it's told. Generally, when people talk about what's so great about Conker's, the situations that Conker gets put in are always what people bring up. How funny and absurd the game is. Personally, when I think of Conker's, the first thing that I think of is its music. Why? For segue purposes. And I listen to it on my phone when I work out. Alright, when I'm thinking about breakfast, leave me alone. The music was composed by Robin Beanland, who also composed for Killer Instinct. As much as I love Grant Kirkhope's work on the other N64 Rareware games, I genuinely think Conker's soundtrack is of the same quality and in some ways surpasses them. The main theme from Conker's Windy is so good. It does a perfect job at sounding like music from one of those other squeaky clean platformers. It's very misleading, and I absolutely love it. Another thing that is so wonderful about this track is that it changes ever so slightly depending on the area that you are in. For example, when you go to the area filled with poo, we'll call it Cleveland for now, there are fart noises and such. And that brings me to another tune that I really like, and that's Poo, which starts off with dripping fecal matter noises, but it slowly turns into a general good jazzy tune. And of course, there's the great Mighty Pooh's theme, which is just wonderful. Through clever use of clever lyrics, I think it's N64 top notch. Conker's music has quite the variety, which is great. Not just that, but it feels like every tune is genuinely good. None of them are throwaway, if that makes sense. There's the Spanish sounding bull area and even the club tune, and everything fits too. Beanland did a great job. Another aspect of sound is the voice acting. It's okay at best. Beanland did most of the voices, which is commendable, but something seems off, like the timing just isn't right. Everyone talks way too slow. It's better than Sin and Punishment's voice acting, but that's a very low bar. The voice acting is just a bit uncomfortable like early FreeXax videos. Visuals in Conker's are solid. It's much better looking than a lot of the other N64 platformers, and it's about the same quality as the other Rareware games. The character models are detailed and very clear. The color choice is a bit darker than other N64 platformers though, the poo, but it all still looks pretty good. So the game looks good, sounds good, and has an engaging story. Those are all positives. But why do I think this game is only okay? Because of the aspects that make it a game. Conker's is a platformer, but it doesn't have a huge platformer vibe to it. Let's start with the basic controls first. You jump with A, move with the control stick, and use a frying pan with B. By pressing Z and then A, Conker will do a high jump, and he can also do a helicopter tailspin thing. There are also context-sensitive controls, which I'll get to later. As for just the basics, I think they control just fine, but not perfect. The jump's glide is cool, but sometimes there's an issue with depth perception, so it's easy to over or undershoot. Other than that though, jumping and running are fine. I don't love the frying pan because Conker stops when he uses it. It ruins movement, but you don't use the frying pan a whole lot. Moving as Conker is super silky smooth, but sometimes it's a bit too super silky smooth. Like, just running is fine, but it can be a tad floaty. Later on in the game, Conker gets rid of the frying pan for a shotgun, and it's fun. I loved using it because there's real power behind it, and then even later, he gets dual machine guns, which are fantastic. I think one positive of having a crappy frying pan is it shows how great the guns are. Now, I want to transition into the level design of the game. The base of Conker's is a platformer, but it has so much more. The first part of the game is a simple and funny tutorial for the context-sensitive bits. Very effective. Then there's a decent platformer tutorial, but I've never seen anyone get through it without failing multiple times. The actual platforming segments of this game, by the way, are colon-bursting hard. I don't want to go through every aspect of design because FreeXax ain't got time for that. So instead, I'll just go ahead and talk about my main noteworthy areas. Barn Boys is well put together, but boring. It was a simple first level, and I did not have too much trouble with it, but I do think it ruins the pacing of the game early on. Having to give the rat cheese from the same area 3 times is simply boring design. Would have been better had the cheese been in different areas, and it's a drag to collect some of the pacifist bees and take them to the sunflower. If you go inside the bar in search of them, then they all go back to where they originally were, and you'll have to collect them all over again. Pretty much any segment where you have to climb is dreadful, usually because of the camera angles, and falls in this game are very bad for Conker. This game has some of the worst fall damage I've ever experienced. I feel like the game lacks good depth because I can never tell where I'm going to land when I jump or sometimes where certain things are. This was very evident in the Bats Tower and Slaprano chapters. However, I really like the Bats Tower chapter because it was the first real level where there was a lot of swimming, and it was all sort of eased in, allowing me to learn it all relatively easy. The segment of the game in the club, Rock Solid, where you have to pee on the rocks to get them to roll down the holes, was awful for me. I felt like I was getting nowhere with it, and the first time that I played this game, this is where I gave up. I didn't pick the game up for a couple months after this. While it's not necessarily bad design, I blame the controls for making this certain area my worst nightmare. The hoverboard area is fun to do. For you to be successful at this level, you have to go as fast as you can. If you slow down, then you have a lot of catching up to do. When you're going as fast as you can, sometimes it's hard to see the dinosaur coming around the corner, and you can easily die. It feels like a cheap kill. I understand that it adds to the challenge of the level, but every time I died by hitting the dinosaur, it felt like a swift kick in the buck bumbles. In the chapter named Spooky, there's a mission here where you have to collect 3 keys. There's a specific order in which you need to get them, and that really bothers me because you can get the second key first, but there's no way to take it to the door. I did not know this, so when I was playing, I was adamant on getting that one first, but it's impossible, so I wasted so much time. They could have easily made it unavailable until you get the first key, but nope. I heard there's a way to get around this if you're a speedrunner, but not everyone is a speedrunner. Stop asking me to speedrun speedrun games. Its War was probably one of my favorite chapters overall. There's something about having the dual machine guns and just mowing through the teddies that is beyond therapeutic, but the ending segment where you have to jump through the lasers is the hardest part of the game, and I want to hurt whoever designed it. Once again, I feel that there is a lack of depth, so this was difficult. I just couldn't correctly tell where I needed to jump half the time, which made me want to snap my controller in half. The last chapter, Heist, was pretty simple. There wasn't really anything to it, but the moments where you flipped in slow motion and shot the guards were fun, but difficult. Getting caught in midair by a bullet was not great, because usually they would keep shooting you and take away a few bits of your health. The main positive thing to note about the design is that it is very smooth. The game is relatively linear with a few exceptions, and with it being designed this way, it always feels like you're getting stuff done in a timely fashion. No matter how different scenes are, I always feel like it went together. Although, I do feel that towards the end, the parodies may have gotten out of hand and sort of threw some of that cohesiveness out the window. Conker's level design isn't bad, but when you really dig down, the platforming aspects are very plain and bland. The plain and bland is well hidden by the humorous aspects of the game, but still, there's nothing really interesting about the platforming segments in the game, which is unfortunate because Rare knew how to make a good platformer. That said, Rare really tried to make up for it by having so many different kinds of gameplay. There's this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and probably more. Conker's has some of the most varied gameplay I've ever encountered. It feels as varied as Mario Party, and that's a game with mini-games. Now, I have mixed feelings about this. You see, I think that varied gameplay really helps Conker to be interesting, engaging, fun. There's never really a dull moment, except when you're in the dull platforming moments. Seriously, this Barn Boys area is so tough to get through, not because it's tough, but because it's boring. Why is it so close to the beginning? But besides that, Conker's is genuinely entertaining and unpredictable. And if we're talking about the most genuinely entertaining and unpredictable aspects of Conker's, we have to talk about the bosses. The bosses in Conker's Bad Fur Day are phenomenal, but they are all very easy to beat. Haybot is simple and is a spoof of Terminator, which makes me really happy. The part where he's covered in hay is relatively difficult to do, and it may be one of the more difficult parts of any of the boss fights, simply because of the controls. Boiler is really easy, but before you fight him, you have to take a leak on some of the fire imps, which takes way longer than it should. The Great Mighty Pooh is probably one of the best things to happen to video games, just because of the song that he sings, though I can't say that there's really anything too great about this fight. A lot of it is waiting, and while I love to listen to his voice, I really did not enjoy running around in circles for most of the fight, waiting for him to wrap up tossing stuff at me. Bug of the Nut is relatively simple, and it's nice and fast-paced. I guess that's all I wrote about it in my script. I feel that the Count Batula boss segment is one of the best parts of the game. You have to stun the different villagers with your dung, then pick them up and feed them to your grandpa. It's pretty easy, and I think it's really well designed. They let you use echolocation to find the villagers, and Conker squeaks when you stun someone, making this very smooth. The experiment and Little Girl is a really easy boss, and the cutscenes are the most interesting part. I hardly had to move during this, and I overall was not impressed with it. Hide and Right gave me a lot of trouble. I did not like controlling this part because I feel like transitioning from move to move was too difficult, and that the only true thing making this boss difficult was fighting the controls. It felt so random. Also, it's a parody of Super Mario 64's boss, which is funny, I guess. It doesn't feel like this should be the last boss fight though. It's so anticlimactic as far as the story goes, to be completely honest, and it doesn't feel like this is what you were building up to. But to be fair, it fits Conker's in the sense of what's gonna happen next. While I love the bosses for their entertainment value, they're super context sensitive heavy, and I'm not a huge fan of essentially dodge, 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 press B. That's not very engaging design as far as I see it. Go ahead, fam, smash that dislike button. Please don't. It's bad for my self-esteem. And now it's time for me to give you my overall conclusion on Conker's Bad Fur Day. Honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I want to find the right words to say this because I understand that a lot of people love this game, and it gets greatest game ever made thrown out a lot. Conker's is not a bad game, but it's by no means a great game either. Conker's would work great as a movie, but the design of the game is sort of boring. The game isn't boring, but the design is. It's basically going from point A to point B to press B, and then there's a cutscene. That isn't engaging from a design perspective, but if you're a gamer who likes to be rewarded with cutscenes, then happy birthday, I guess. But let me try to put this into perspective with one cutscene in particular. The last one when you fight Hide and Reich. So essentially what happens here is Conker gets to pick a weapon, and then kill the alien. And we, the players, get to watch. What if we got to pick out a weapon? And what if we got to fight Hide and Reich with that weapon? And what if, depending on that weapon, Hide and Reich could be a different fight, leaving the ending up to multiple possibilities? Oh wait, no? This is good? Watching the gameplay itself is good? Alright, 10 out of 10. Sorry, I guess. But hey, that's just the way that the cookie crumbles. Join me next time when I review...
Hey! No.
What?
You forgot one of the best parts.
It's too late to turn this into collab, and possibly past your bedtime. No offense, but who are you?
The name is Zumpr.
That is a terrible name.
And somebody forgot about the multiplayer.
I didn't forget. I just don't have people to play with, and honestly, I don't want to review something if I don't have knowledge on it.
But that's the great thing about Conker. You don't need friends to play the multiplayer. There's AI bots.
Okay, feel free to talk about it. I'm listening. You can't change my mind on what I have played, but at the very least you can educate my viewers on that aspect of the game.
Alright. And come on, Free, how could I let you down?
With a name like Zumpr, you already have.
So, Conker's multiplayer. I personally really enjoy the multiplayer, and I think it's a very nice way to play Conker if you're done with the main game. With a variety of good modes to choose from, Conker's multiplayer can keep you busy for hours on end. To start off, there's the story of Conker's multiplayer. The story, or stories of Conker's multiplayer, are short and sweet. The modes Total War, Colors, Tank, Beach, Raptor, and Heist all have stories, with Deathmatch and Race not having stories. Each mode with a story starts off with a cutscene, giving you the details of the situation, telling the player the objective of the mode, along with some of that trademark Conker humor. It's not much, but it's better than just dropping you into the match. It gives the situation a meaning, and adds character to the environment, which I really like. There is a lot of variety in the gameplay of Conker's multiplayer, with the majority of the modes allowing 4 players to play at once, and all modes allowing up to 8 players with AI bots. There are 7 game modes: Deathmatch, War, which has 2 sub-modes, Colors and Total War, Tank, Race, Beach, Raptor, and Heist. First up, Deathmatch. Deathmatch is pretty self-explanatory. Pit yourself against your friends or AI bots in a free-for-all battle on the level of your choosing. I will say what makes Deathmatch unique is the level Bunker. Bunker is by far the best Deathmatch stage, with fire switches all over the map and an electric room to kill unsuspecting foes, along with the bathroom, where you can kill your opponent with the most lethal of weapons, Mwiz. Total War is a team deathmatch mode, where each side is given either a certain amount of time or a certain amount of lives to kill the other team. Whoever has the most kills at the end wins. This mode can be a lot of fun with friends or the right difficulty AI bots, and sometimes it can go right down to the wire on who has the most kills, making it a very intense mode. The other mode of war, Colors, is your basic capture the flag mode. Your goal is to capture the other team's flag with yours at your base. You play on a map similar to Total War, except this time there are 3 towers at each base. Here you can find a sniper, a rocket launcher, and a big machine gun, with one of the towers leading to that team's flag. A big issue for me with this mode is that both teams can hit the other team's flag, and once both flag holders get back to their respective base, the game just stalls out, since it becomes almost impossible to kill the flag holder while they are deep in their own base. Tank is a deathmatch mode with up to 8 players and tanks. The goal is to get the most kills, and there are many ways to achieve this. Gassing everyone with one of the canisters can get a couple of kills, along with other power-ups around the map, such as a booster, sniper scope, explosive rounds, and shield. A decent mode, but people can just camp in the safe areas, which can get very boring. Race is a racing mode using 2 of the lava tracks from Conker's story. Sadly, only 2 players can play at a time, but you can set the lap count, and up to 7 AI bots can join the race. It's fun the first few rounds, but with only 2 items to use, and with only being able to play with 2 people, race can get boring quick. Beach is a transport mode, where you guide unarmed Frenchies past Teddy defenses, or you play as the Teddies and try to take out the Frenchies trying to sneak by.
Wait, are they actually called Frenchies, or are we being really offensive right now?
The key about this mode is that the Frenchies only have about 85 seconds to get past the Teddies. Otherwise, the Teddies will use their new laser weapon and instantly kill you. The Frenchies can grab confidence pills to give them a speed boost, and the Teddies can choose to use the big machine gun, the rocket launcher, or the sniper to stop the Frenchies. The timer really helps this mode. That way, the Frenchies can't camp and have to move in order to score, which opens them up to be fired on. This can be a fun mode, but it is a little bit more difficult if you're playing as a Frenchie. Raptor is a part capture the flag, part deathmatch mode, with the player being able to play as either the cavemen or the raptors. If you're the caveman, you have to try and steal the raptor's eggs, or kill the raptors. Eggs are worth 3 points, and kills are worth 1. If you are on the raptor side, your goal is to protect the eggs and kill the caveman. This mode is extremely difficult for the caveman, because it is nearly impossible to take any eggs due to the raptor's quick speed, and the raptors are so much stronger than the cavemen. The only way to beat the raptors is by trying to kill them, which takes 6 hits, where the raptors can kill you in 2 hits. Very fair mode for the cavemen. Last but not least is Heist. Heist is a 4-team, part capture the flag, part team deathmatch mode, where the goal is to take the money bag in the middle back to your team's safe, or kill the other teams. The first team to get 3 money bags in their safe, or kill off all the other teams, wins. This mode is definitely one of the best ones, since there are so many ways to win. You can risk it and go for the money, or go up and get a sniper and try to kill people from above. Or, you can even find the rocket launcher and kill anyone in your path. A very fleshed out mode that requires the player to be very careful on timing and strategy in order to pull out the win. Finally, the music in Conker's multiplayer. The music mainly consists of background sound effects, except for one song, Heist. When you play the mode Heist, or the level The Vault in Deathmatch, the Heist song plays. One of the most energetic songs in the game, it's the perfect track for a multiplayer mode, with explosive brass for the intense firefights, along with a quiet ending that persuades the player to sneak around and smuggle the money bag past enemies and into their team's safe. Even though there is only one music track from the multiplayer, I think one track is all the multiplayer needed. The sound effects fit most of the other levels perfectly. The gunshots in War, Beach, and Tank fit those modes great, and the dinosaur sounds in Raptor warn the cavemen of what is to come. In the end, the music in Conker's multiplayer is just as good as it needed to be. Overall, Conker's multiplayer is one of, if not the best multiplayer experience on the N64. If you just need one more reason to get Conker's Bad Fur Day, the multiplayer is totally worth it. And the greatest thing is, you don't even need friends! With 5 difficulty levels, you can play all the modes full screen against AI bots, which can keep you on the edge of your seat and playing for hours on end. I want to make sure I say that all of the modes can be a lot of fun, and it's surprising how good Conker's multiplayer is compared to a lot of games on the N64. If you want to have a multiplayer blast with your friends or by yourself on the N64, Conker would be the game to choose. See, FreeXax, Conker's multiplayer wasn't that bad.
I never said it was, but alright. Good game. Not best game, but good game. Good game. Solid game. Alright game at best. Thank you for checking out my video. If you enjoyed it, then I recommend watching my Versus video on Banjo-Kazooie vs Super Mario 64. Or you can watch some of Zumpr's stuff. He's also an N64 YouTuber, so make sure to request a lot of Sonic or Crash Bandicoot. Once again, thanks for watching. Until next time.